Okay, let's dive into the self-observation thing. I'm really interested to hear more about these excerpts you brought from Hacia el despertar de la conciencia toward the awakening of consciousness. You want to go beyond just surface level spirituality, right? Really accelerate that personal growth.
Yeah, and this talk, it doesn't mess around. Like the
Yeah.
speaker's main thing is that real change
Yeah.
requires constantly watching yourself, not just like meditation retreats, but being aware of your thoughts and feelings and actions like all day long.
Whoa, a total perspective shift, not just adding another thing to your to-do list.
Exactly. And they use this great analogy, the observer and the observed.
Oh, like that idea of picturing your thoughts like clouds just drifting by.
Yes. But the speaker takes it further. It's not just for when you're on a meditation cushion. It's about applying it to your daily life. Like, imagine you're watching a movie of your own life. How do you react to a stressful email? What's going on in your head during your commute?
So it's like you're building a new relationship with yourself. Instead of getting lost in your head, you can take a step back and observe.
Yes. And that distance, that's where things get interesting. From that observer position, you start to see your patterns, those habits, those ways you think and react.
Mm.
You mentioned wanting to understand your ego better, right? Well, this is where it gets really juicy.
Okay, let's talk about this ego thing because the speaker connects it to this whole idea of possession.
Right. And it starts early. Think back to being a kid. Remember that feeling when someone touched your toy?
Ugh, don't even remind me.
The speaker's point is that this mine thing, it gets ingrained and can stick with us into adulthood in all sorts of ways.
So it's more than just material possessions then.
Way more. It's this need to control, to be right, holding on to those grudges, this possession idea, wanting things our way. It fuels conflict, internal and external.
Makes me think about how I get when things don't go according to plan. Is that a sign of this possessiveness?
It's definitely something to pay attention to. The speaker isn't about blame, but about seeing those ingrained patterns so you can choose differently.
So step one is just noticing, like, oh, there's that possessiveness again, without judging it.
Exactly, just bringing it into your awareness.
Okay, so self-observation helps us see these patterns, especially the ones connected to ego and possession. But what then? How do we actually change them?
That's the real work. And the speaker is blunt, no shortcuts. They talk about spiritual bypassing.
What is that? I've heard that term, but
It's like slapping a good vibes only sticker on everything to avoid the tough stuff. This deep dive is about the opposite, being really honest even when it's uncomfortable.
so not pretending everything's perfect.
Right. This is about radical self-acceptance, the good, the bad, all of it.
Okay, I'm listening. How do we actually put this into practice?
The speaker talks about cultivating this maestro interior, an inner teacher.
I like that. So it's not about looking for validation from others or comparing yourself to some like perfect image of spirituality.
Exactly. It's about looking at your own life honestly. Your
Mhm.
choices, your reactions, are you really living by your values? Or just talking the talk?
Walking the walk, right. And I think it's really powerful that the speaker embodies this. They share their own journey, even use the word violence to talk about their past.
Yeah, that really struck me too. That vulnerability makes their message so much more powerful. They're not just preaching from some, enlightened mountaintop. They've been there.
Makes you wonder, what does a life transformed by these principles actually look like? Which makes me think about something else the speaker talks about, service. How does that fit into this whole self-observation and transformation thing?
Ah, great question. Because the speaker's point is that real spiritual growth isn't about disappearing into some blissful bubble. It's about connecting with something bigger than yourself, about contributing to the world.
So it's not about reaching some level of personal enlightenment and then like checking out.
Not at all. It's about aligning your actions with your values, and service is a powerful way to do that. How can you use your unique gifts and experiences to make a difference?
I love that. Shifting from what's in it for me to how can I be of service? But honestly, it can feel like we're already bombarded with messages about self-care and self-improvement. It's like one more thing to add to the to-do list.
I hear you. But the speaker frames service not as an obligation, but a natural result of self-awareness. Remember that possession idea, that clinging to me and mine. They're suggesting that loosening the ego's grip naturally makes us more open and compassionate towards others.
So as we break down that wall of me versus the world, it creates space for something bigger.
Yes. And that's where true service can bloom. Not from obligation or ego, but from a genuine desire to help others.
And this connects to the speaker's story about Parsifal and the Holy Grail, right?
Exactly. Parsifal couldn't reach the Grail at first because he was so focused on his own quest.
Stuck in that what's in it for me mindset.
Right. It's only when he shifts his focus and acts from compassion and service that he understands the Grail's meaning.
There's a beautiful parallel there to self-observation. It's not just about looking inward for self-improvement. It's about understanding ourselves so we can show up in the world with more compassion, purpose, service.
And the speaker reminds us that self-observation isn't a one-time thing. It's constant. Noticing, adjusting, course-correcting. We're all going to mess up along the way.
No finish line in the journey of self-discovery. It's about embracing the process of learning and growing. Speaking of which, we've covered some big ideas, but how do we make this practical?
The million-dollar question. And the speaker offers some tools. Remember, sueño claro y definido, a clear and defined dream.
Right, like a guiding North Star. But it's not just any dream.
Definitely not. This isn't about fleeting desires or material things. This is about your soul's purpose, that deeper calling.
How do you even tell the difference between the ego's desires and the soul's purpose? Sometimes it feels impossible.
That's where self-observation is so crucial. Quieting the mind, tuning into the heart, that's how you create space for that inner wisdom.
This has been amazing, but I always like to end on a thought-provoking note, something for our listeners to ponder.
Well, the speaker said, true love is about unity, and it got me thinking. This idea of possession, clinging to mine, it's the opposite of unity.
It's like that possessiveness creates this wall, this separation, not just between us and others, but within ourselves, between our ego and our true self.
Yes. So here's something to think about. How can letting go of that need to possess, that need to control, open you to a deeper experience of unity within yourself and in your relationships? It's a question worth exploring.
It's like we're holding ourselves back from that true connection, by needing things to be a certain way.
Yeah, there's that saying, to hold on to something, you got to be willing to let it go. And for the speaker, this letting go, this loosening of the ego, it's not a one and done thing, it's a practice.
Makes you think about those everyday moments, right? When you catch yourself needing to be right, needing things your way. Maybe those are the moments to practice.
Exactly. The speaker's big thing is that self-observation isn't about being perfect. It's about seeing those moments, the good, the bad, and choosing differently.
And having that sueño claro y definido helps, right? That clear vision.
Totally. That connection to your purpose, it keeps you going even when things get tough. Because let's be real.
It's not always easy.
Right. Sometimes it's easier to just stay comfortable, avoid those hard truths.
Totally.
But the speaker's real about this. They talk about facing our miserias humanas, those human weaknesses, those parts of ourselves we hide.
Like that quote, the wound is where the light enters. It's hard, but that's where the growth is.
And we don't have to do it alone, right? The speaker talks about finding guides, teachers, mentors, people who've walked the path.
Someone to help you see your blind spots. Give you a boost when you need it.
Yes. And community, too. Surrounding yourself with people who get it, who are on the same journey.
It's so easy to fall into comparing ourselves, especially with personal growth stuff. But there's something powerful about learning and growing together.
Totally. We're all in this together, each at our own pace.
This has been incredible. We've covered so much. Self-observation, ego, possession, compassion, service, finding your purpose.
It's a lot. But the core message is this. It's not about just knowing this stuff. It's about actually living it, making those little choices every day that move us towards awareness, compassion, and unity.
Beautifully put. And on that note, we'll leave our listeners with this. What small step can you take today to put this into practice? Until next time, keep exploring and keep growing.